Welcome back, Warriors. Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2, the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well on your streaks. Keep them going. Keep positive. Thank you for all the comments, feedbacks. And once again, a shout out to Pixel for the last one. Now I'm going to go to another comment about Vaibhov. I'm hoping I'm getting that right, Vaibhov. And he had a good comment, and he was talking about that the urges become too strong. So let's kind of talk about that one a little bit. Before I do that, subscribe, like, comment, and donate. And let's kind of get into this one. My light went off for a second here, so let me go ahead and put this back on. Okay, it fell off. All right, so when the urge becomes too strong. So, and this is Vaibhov. Vaibhov, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I've been there many, many times. Let's talk about that a little bit, and let's see if I can try to help, in my opinion, of what to do here. So, back in my 20s and middle 20s, I thought this was the thing to do. Everybody did this, whether it's actually physical women or pictures or things like this. The more you did this, the better off you were, and this is what we were told over and over again. And you start believing that, thinking it's okay with you, not realizing that in the old days, that the old tried and true tested meanings of life, theories of life were correct. And back in the old days, you did not have this type of issue to the extent. You didn't have technology, you didn't have images and pictures all the time. So you basically didn't have this type of situation. But now when information is so readily available on the internet, it's very difficult not to see some of the stuff and get involved in this stuff. So when we talk about this, we talk about the idea that when you look at trying to figure out how to handle this, realize that you are the one in control. And I realize, Vaibhov, that it's not easy to think that way, especially with something like this. This is an unbelievable power, especially when you're in your 20s and 30s. It's an unbelievable power that you have. And as you get older, you tend to understand it better. But guys, I didn't start even thinking about this until I was in my 50s, and I'm in my 60s now. I'm 60 now, so there was no even thought of even stopping, because I felt like, well, I'm going to get prostate cancer and all kinds of stuff if I didn't do it. But the idea, guys, is that you have to kind of think in terms of what feels right to you. And in my mind, it felt right to me better when I wasn't relapsing. I had my small streaks of a week here and there, and I was able to kind of use those to get things done when I had to. All right. But when I was stressed out and things were happening, well, then I'd go back and relapse again, and you're at the point where, okay, you're gonna just kind of let it go. Now, Vaibhov, you're right. The urges are so strong, especially as you do this more and more. When you build up enough testosterone, you're gonna have huge urges left and right. It's going to be hard to stop. But once again, as we always talk about, you have to kind of take one step at a time. Confucius says the first step is the key in a successful journey. The first step is to basically just kind of get rid of all these things around you. All right, get rid of all these images, the phones. Take a break from some of that, and build a couple days away from this stuff if you can. Now, if you're part of a work situation, you need to, well, use it for work, but do the best you can to break away. So don't put yourself in a position where the temptation is great. The same thing with, going out. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that a week from now, 2 weeks from now, you can't go back out, and spend time with women. But you want to take a break at that point, because it's getting to the point where you are just basically releasing because you want to release, and you can't stop yourself. And I understand, I've been there. But the thing what you want to do is you want to refocus your mind. And if you start by getting rid of the stuff around you, there's going to be less thought of that. Now, will you still have images in your brain? Yes, you will. You will still have images about this stuff in the brain, and this is where a lot of the temptation comes from. Now, what you've got to do with that, Vaibhov, is basically look and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, right, let me try to get as active in things as I can. Go work out a little bit. Go for a walk, right? Go to places where you can't just release, public places, right? You're not going to do that in public. Find options to get away from the thoughts. The thought in your mind is going to kill you. That's going to create the problem that you're trying to avoid. And so as you look at this whole situation, you want to say to yourself, okay, I know that this is a possibility, but I'm going to try to divert as much as possible as I can. Now, there's times they're going to come to you unexpectedly. You're going to have a flash of a picture, or a beautiful woman's going to walk by. That's the time to take some deep breaths and transmute. Transmute that energy into what you're doing. Refocus back on what you're doing, and make sure that you're using that energy in a positive way to move in a different direction. Okay? But the urge will become strong, and as you try to get away from it, it's going to grab you back. We talked about this in the last video with dark forces. Those tempting forces are not going to let you go very easily. You're going to have to work to break those. And sometimes it's exhausting, because you know this is what you have a feeling to do, your urges to do, but not all urges are good. And I think in this case, when you look at the urge you're trying to move away from, what you got to try to do is move away from the urge to go ahead and release, and focus on your urge and motivation to get other things done. And you move in that direction, things will calm down. Eventually, you're not going to have as strong as an urge. But it can hit you in the middle of the night. It can hit you during the day. It's going to hit you, when you're walking across the street, when you notice people all around. Wintertime's a little better because most people are covered up. Summertime, you see a lot of people who are wearing seductive outfits and things like that. It's very difficult. Imaging on TV is always very difficult if you watch the wrong type of shows. But the thing is, when the urge comes too strong, take a couple of deep breaths. Now, what does this do? Your deep breath, Vaibhov, will go ahead and change the way your brain works. It will bring oxygen to your brain. Now, what does this do? Well, let me look at an example of sleeping. In order to go to sleep, if you take some deep breaths, like in and out, in and out, all of a sudden, now your brain is clouded with oxygen. Now you've forgotten that thought. And so what ends up happening is you end up then becoming to the point where you're not thinking about that sexual thing anymore. Now you're focusing, and you can get back to focusing on something else. This happens a lot when you don't want to go to sleep. You can use this technique as well. You can focus on something other than something you want to avoid. So, Vaibhov, good question. When your urge comes, guys, and it's too strong, stop. Take a couple deep breaths and see if that urge is still there. Do not let your hands or anything else touch anything related to that, because I don't believe you start losing energy or even losing it until it starts rising up to the point where you're called edging. That I also think is a problem, and I don't even do that any longer. Okay. But the bottom line, guys, is that you want to go ahead and not allow that to even come near the surface. And you can do that by your breathing techniques. So, Vaibhov, I understand. I've been there many, many times. The best suggestion I can have for you is to go ahead and take some deep breaths and try to transmute that somewhere else. I hope this helps, my friend. Good luck in your battle, and battle on, my friends. Battle on.